10x your service design offering with Smapply. Take 20% off any order with This Is HCD 20 off. Let's superpower you and your design team's potential. Sign up at smapply.app. Enjoy the episode from your friends at Smapply, helping support This Is HCD podcast.
It was hectic, but honestly, like one of the most amazing experiences. We were interns officially, but we were on paper and in actual fact treated as full-fledged members of the team, which were newly formed from other business units within Australia Post. And that was really cool just to put it into action.
Hello and welcome to Getting Started in Design, and this is HCD. My name is Gerry Scullion and I'm a designer, educator and the host of This is HCD, based in the wonderful city of Dublin, Ireland. The Getting Started in Design podcasts are created for people looking to break into design. We shine a light on that transitionary period between education and employment and try and understand what that experience is like for people trying to break into our industry. In my opinion, it is every designer's responsibility to be that person we wished we could have met when we were looking for our first break. Now, I caught up with Rohan Walsh, a UX designer from Port Macquarie in Australia, but now based in the Lebanon. We speak about Rohan's journey to get where he is currently, including internships at Australia Post amongst others. Rohan is a truly awesome designer and person, filled with so much potential and quality in all areas of his life, and I know you're just going to love listening to his story. Let's get straight into it. Rohan, a very warm welcome to Getting Started in Design. How are you doing?
Thanks for having me. Yeah, going well, thanks. And yours?
I'm doing moderately okay. Moderately okay these days. I'm looking forward to Christmas. But we've been catching up. You know, I put a post out there on LinkedIn a couple of weeks ago looking for graduates of design, trying to explore what their experience is like getting into the field of design. And you were straight out of the blocks. I had only hit send, and milliseconds later, you had responded with, I'm only joking, it was a couple of days later, you said you'd like to be interviewed, and I was like, absolutely. So maybe for our listeners, Rohan, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you studied and where you're coming from now.
Yeah, for sure. So I started off initially within product design out at Swinburne in Melbourne before moving over to industrial design at RMIT, which is really good fun. I mean, what kind of drew me to it was seeing how design could be a reflection of a society at any given time. And in turn, there's that vice versa relationship. Started off at RMIT, went on an exchange to India, got to see some really cool designs over there, which was super fun. Learned how to sew, which made mum and dad proud. Super fun. And then came back and realized I needed to develop some visual communication skills, and did a diploma in graphic design at RMIT as kind of a midway sabbatical before diving back into industrial design and finishing off. In the midst of that, I was also working within graphic design and service design as well, doing some kind of design research roles. And now I'm based over in Lebanon, where I've been for about 4 months now, and working as a UX UI designer and freelancing in web design as well, which is good fun.
Fantastic. Let's take a step back. People will be like trying to sort of understand your accent a little bit. You grew up in New South Wales, is that right? In northern New South Wales as well.
Yep.
So
Port Macquarie.
What were your
in the middle?
Port Macquarie, a great town for anyone who's looking to visit Australia. Port Macquarie must be on that list as well, especially if you're doing a travel from Sydney up to Byron or any of those kind of things. That's always worth the stop of. But tell us a little bit about what you were like in school. You mentioned that you studied industrial design first. What were the strengths that you had, and how did you find industrial design when you were doing your HSE? Is it HSE is the leaving?
Yeah. Yep, you are correct. It's a really good question because I didn't actually look at design at all. I think as well, coming from like a regional Australian town, like art, design, music, all those kind of more creative fields, they're not outrightly disdained, but there's nothing really kind of taking you there. It's either you go into sciences or kind of humanities. So in year 12, I was weighing up between psychology or engineering, and design is somewhat in the middle of that. Like I always like to figure out how things worked and inspect objects and pull them apart. And also just understand how people work and what motivates them. So design for me is kind of smack bang in the middle there. And it wasn't until, a few years after high school that I started looking into design as a pathway.
Ah, okay. So there was a gap there between school and university, a couple of years.
Yeah, I actually went into IT first, funnily enough.
Right.
And I remember in the first lecture in orientation, the head of the program was saying, half of you won't be here next semester. And I was thinking, ha, ha, ha. I know what I'm doing, but shock horror, I didn't. And yeah, it took a little bit of time to get to industrial design. No, didn't. I did finish the first year and then decided to change my tune.
Yeah, because I'm really interested in that whole kind of segue between high school, as I'd say probably globally, and university. How do people find that bridge into design school? Typically what seems to happen is the students feel like they're the most artistic in their year, or the best performing drawers or illustrators, and they're automatically treated like, okay, they're the creative ones. They're set up to go to design school or something a little bit more kind of creative, and that's not necessarily the case in this instance, which is good. You found your way into industrial design. Well, it might have been taking you a couple of years, but it sounds like you got into the course that you were most happy with because you completed that one, didn't you?
Yeah, for sure. Definitely, it wasn't something that was kind of traditionally that I'd be focused to. Swinburne, I wasn't really. I started off in product design at Swinburne because I saw some really good. It's definitely a little bit of a stereotype. You start to see like IDEO or like Apple or those kind of like huge product design studios. Or just design studios, and you think, I want to work for them. And then over time, I started to kind of break down that notion after maybe just looking inward a little bit and thinking about why I wanted to go into design and what good being a designer from a developed country going to a developing. And after going to Nepal and India, I started to kind of question that route and go into more digital and research kind of side of things.
Because I was going to ask, how did that change? Because it sounds like, from speaking to you in the prelude here, there was a shift that happened somewhere between years 2 and 4 in your industrial design career. So talk to us a little bit more about how you managed to find yourself in India during the industrial design degree. What did you see, and also what led you to change? Like, what was the next step? Because there seems to be an awful lot of growth happening in the first 5 or 6 years of your career, personal growth, I mean.
Yeah, for sure. It was the start of 2018. I went to Nepal on a study tour to learn about human-centered design. And that tour, it was really quite amazing. Met some really, really amazing designers and engineers and people who were working locally in Nepal. But it really led me to kind of look back on my own experiences in Australia and the local problems that we have there. And I changed my tune a bit, wanting to look more deeply into the problems that I understood rather than going to a whole new country or place and trying to create change, which can often be a little bit problematic. And in India, it was a really, really great time just seeing the really rich crafts and textile design scene. And it just made me kind of think about that a little bit.
Because I find it really fascinating, and I haven't had enough experience in this field where I'm Western educated, all my experience has been created from working in Western cultures, and then to go into a developing world, you almost see design through a different lens. And how in the Western world it's all about creating and generating new ideas and new things, whereas in the developing world it's really about fixing and really about understanding its place, and it seems to be a lot more considered.
I think so. I think that if you're studying design, or if you're a practitioner in the West, especially within universities, it's a very safe kind of ecosystem where I feel like there was almost a little bit of like a narrative of, you are a designer, you work in isolation, you can solve the world and its problems. And that's typically kind of manufactured through a product design narrative, I guess. And then you go over to anywhere in the East, and you start to see how these like mass manufactured so-called solutions don't work, or are adversely affecting people and their communities. And there's this, exactly. And there's this one concept which isn't, of course, unique to India, but jugaad, which is like an ad hoc design. So you start to see how people take these kind of products that are mass manufactured at scale, believing that they solve a problem, and then you see how people on the ground are actually adapting them to work better for them. And that was something I really, really enjoyed, because you have both the top down and the bottom up working together, and it's more of a kind of a communal effort to make design work for them.
So I'm really enjoying the narrative here and where you're at in your career at this piece, because like I had a similar trajectory when I finished university. I kind of repositioned myself, and I was like, actually, I don't know if I want to be part of the industrial design cult. At that time, it felt like it was trying to crack into a cult. And I remember my people will probably heard the story before anyway in the podcast, where my very first project was working for a camera company, and I was like so excited. I was like, I was going to design digital cameras. No. I was designing a blister pack for AA batteries. And I was like, how many of these are going to get made? And like 1 million. And I'm like, I'm building something and designing something that I'm spending months on, a blister pack to hold 4 AA batteries, and it's going to end up in the ground. And I remember saying to myself, I don't think that's right. As a 23-year-old, I was like, I don't think this feels like the industry for me. It sounds like you were in a similar path where you were questioning your things. And I guess when you come back to Australia, you've kind of been somewhat enlightened to human-centered design generally. What did that look like in terms of getting a job? Because I'm really keen to understand how you managed to find that fit and find the work that you found interesting based on this new kind of enlightened state.
Yeah, for sure.
Was it hard to?
It's a good question. What happened once I came back? Okay, so when I was in India, I was at I was 23 at the time, and I was in the only government-funded design university in India, the National Institute of Design. And this isn't to talk myself up whatsoever. It was more kind of the huge gap that existed, because over there is there were 100 places and 50,000 people sit the test to actually get admission into NID.
Wow.
So they're all hugely advanced in their technical skills. They know how to draw, they know how to render beautifully. It is really, really quite amazing to see the skills that they have. And that was something that, coming back to Australia, I really felt like I knew how to think. University helped me develop that, but I didn't know how to use any kind of the kind of industry tools. So mostly looking at like the Adobe suite, which is what I use for the most part now. And I started to want to actually learn how to create a visually appealing and intuitive piece of information. And so I came back and just dived into a year-long course there at RMIT out in Brunswick in the inner north of Melbourne. And that was really good because it was a good way for me to build from the ground up. Like, I think, honestly, within design, it's so often the case that you might have what you think is a great idea, but you don't have the skills to actually bring it to life. And that was one of kind of the initial barriers I had with coming from a non-design background within high school and then getting into design within a university context. And same for, just coming back and realizing I wasn't really loving industrial design or didn't want to become a product designer. So I thought I might just change my tune a little bit and go more into the graphic and information design space.
Okay.
So
when you came back from India, you were going back into university, is that right?
That's right, yeah. So I had another 2 years of my degree to finish off.
Okay. But looking at your portfolio and your LinkedIn profile as well, it shows that you've been busy throughout, okay? You've been quite entrepreneurial, you've been taking on work, and you've been working on side projects that were congruent to your studies as well. How did you manage all of that?
Well, it kind of kicked off when I got back for the most part. I had a few attempts at, trying to find internships in the first and second year of uni. But just for really with the circumstance, it just didn't end up eventuating into anything. So I came back and after having that diploma in graphic design under my belt, I was able to just go out there and, go to Melbourne Knowledge Week, go to Melbourne Design Week. I was really just trying to soak up as much information as possible. And it was at one of those events I met someone who needed a graphic designer, and I actually ended up taking a contract with them for just under about 2 months, putting together some infographics and a pitch deck, which was really, really great to put it all into action. That's what I think was really lacking in my own university experience, was that link to industry. While it is often well-intended, it might not go according to plan. And that's as it goes. But I really just wanted to get out there and put the skills to the test.
I think that's one of the best things that graduates can do if they're working throughout, even if it's just nixers, as they're called in Ireland, where little bits of work here and there, little pockets of opportunity to apply the learnings in a business scenario. When it comes to doing your portfolio at the very end, it shows that you're hungry and it shows that you're eager to learn, and it's not just looking to be handed to you on a plate. Because I think in design, we're not in the space where if you study marketing, you'll get a marketing junior's job, or if you study accounting, you'll go in and do an intake as a junior accountant. In design, it's still a little bit, you have to forge your own look, and that's it's echoing what I did as well. So I think I'm keen to understand a little bit more around the interview process when you landed your first job. I think post industrial design, was that with Street, or was that with the Post, Australia Post?
So Street and Australia Post were while I was still studying.
Wow, okay.
They were summer jobs, I guess. So Street being about 4-6 weeks, and then Australia Post being 3 months. And that was while I was juggling full-time study as well for the last part of it. For the final 4 weeks.
That's impressive, Rohan. That's impressive stuff.
It was hectic. But honestly, one of the most amazing experiences being able to, we were interns officially, but we were on paper and in actual fact, treated as full-fledged members of the team, which were newly formed from other business units within Australia Post. And that was really cool just to just put it into action. But first design role after that was actually, now that I'm here in Lebanon, which was working as a UX UI designer for an agency here just outside of Beirut. So yeah, I guess the challenges of that was first coming to a complete, obviously, like I am very well attuned to the design scene and design kind of language within Australia, but coming to another country, I mean, it is definitely both a pro and a con. But you do kind of have to adapt as well to how design is communicated, not even just how products are visualized, but how you actually talk about design. Like if I said that I was a service designer and often go to the example of wayfinding in a hospital or in a airport or a supermarket or shopping center rather, that didn't really have the same kind of pull. So I went back to, the really just like a painfully common one, which is just like, going for like food delivery services. You talk through the various points that you go through and how the food actually gets to your doorsteps and how many hands it has to go through.
The orchestration.
So yeah, I guess for me, it was actually, it was quite a short process in getting this role. I had one interview with the head of design here, and we just kind of talked about my past experiences and got to know each other a little bit on a personal, but also as designers, with how we kind of worked and how we might be a potential fit. And from that, went away with like a design challenge, I guess, which was a task to be completed in, I think it was about 3 days. So that was actually creating.
Do you want to tell us what the challenge was?
Yeah, it was creating
Can you remember?
A app design for a fitness app, to the likes of kind of Duolingo, where you can earn points and it's all kind of gamified. So that was really cool.
Nice. And what did you use for that?
I used,
what did that look like in terms of?
I used Adobe XD, actually. When you say what did that look like, I had to make all the elements and kind of adjust from previous projects, and also then make it work. So add all the functionalities and the links between the individual screens. So it was a pretty big few days. And then after that, I had an interview with the CEO, and that was more just kind of finalizing and talking about the contract and the offer and pay and all those key bits. But yeah, since then I've always a
can I ask you?
Bit of a tricky
I'm not
one.
going to ask you about. I'm not going to ask you about the details of your contract, but what tends to be one of the most problematic areas for anyone who's coming out of university is learning the language of how to negotiate. How was that experience, and knowing what was reasonable to ask for? Can you remember going back to that time, what that looked like? How did you know that you weren't being duped? Because I know when I arrived into Australia second time, on my first gig, I was like, I don't know. This was 2006. I was like, I don't know if this is a good deal or a bad deal. I'm like, I think they look like good people. I think I'm going to sign this contract. Yes, I'm going to sign it. The pen is on the paper. I've signed it. Yeah, I've signed it. I've got a job. So it was a little bit like that. I wasn't really prepared. And as it turns out, it was an okay deal. What was that experience like for you?
Yeah, I guess for me too. Coming here to a different country, it wasn't really the exact role that I had my heart set on in terms of the task that I'd be doing, but it was still going to be something where I could be learning and making impact and getting to know the local design scene. So for me, what that kind of looked like, so was that in terms of like the actual negotiation and figuring out all that stuff?
Was there a negotiation, or was it just an accepted thing? Like, you've got a job, you've got an offer, I think I'll just take it. Like, was there anyone helping you during that process of how to negotiate? How did you handle the whole thing? Did you be able to benchmark against other things like that?
Trying to figure out that side of things was a little bit complex. Luckily enough, I have my partner who has worked here and comes from a business background himself. So that was really quite good to have that local kind of experience to help kind of lead me into the negotiations and talk about what would be a reasonable offer. Also, like knowing some designers here who have worked for varying companies, they told me what the kind of range was to expect. So I did go in with a range of what I was after. And they met me about midway for that. And I personally felt it was a little bit of like what I offered was the lower end of things because I know the situation here where, people 70, 80% of the population is living in poverty. I was really just trying to meet my like living costs, which is quite minor. So I did mention that I would like a reevaluation in a few months' time to see, if I'm performing well, if that can be to be raised later on down the line if there's room. And thankfully they did meet me there, which was quite good. So
that sounds fair.
Currently it's on it's a 3-month basis, and then we'll reevaluate from there. So I'm pretty happy with how it's gone. I mean,
that's cool. Well, Rohan, thanks for first of all coming on the podcast. I know it's kind of a little bit intrusive in terms of like me asking you all these questions, what it was like, and for our listeners to this specific podcast, Getting Started in Design, I'm told that it is fantastically useful for other people who are going through that journey as well and trying to understand what they need to be aware of. And especially the fact that I can put a link to you as well, that they can reach out and ask questions. I'll put a link to your portfolio in the show notes for this episode. Maybe, is it okay if we put a link to your LinkedIn as well, if people want to reach out and maybe ask you questions over there as well? I know people are going to have loads of questions. Absolutely. Well, look, Rohan, thanks for giving me your time and energy today and for getting up so early. It's 5:30 in the Lebanon, folks. It's probably closer to 6:30 now. For you over there. But is there anything else you want to add before we wrap up the episode, Rohan?
That's the toughest question, I think. I think the biggest thing for me has been finding a community, especially if you're still within university, like finding people who are talking your language, especially if you're studying quite a broad degree. It can be a little bit hard to find people who are talking about the same kind of design you are. That's hugely helpful because I know how big imposter syndrome can be as an emerging designer. So actually having your friends there who can pat you on the back and reassure you that, no, this is a good decision. I can see why you've done this, and give you some constructive criticism in a really safe and kind of friendly manner. That's the biggest thing that I think has helped me get to where I am today and where I continue to go.
It sounds like that's great advice. But I think that's one of the biggest challenges for emerging talent, to find their place, their new home, where they understand and they share that language of what design can be, to make sure that you're on the right track for the future. If you go into a business that they don't really get the same level of design as you, it's kind of very hard and you're going to feel very frustrated for a long time. And it sounds like you've navigated that world excellently. There's another word for you folks. I don't know if it's in that. But, absolutely kudos to you. Keep us posted on how you're getting on. If you ever want to come back on to Getting Started in Design and share anything else, Rohan, you're more than welcome to come back. I've really enjoyed speaking with you.
Likewise. Thanks for having me on, Gerry.
So there you have it. That's all for this episode. If you like this episode, feel free to visit thisishcd.com, where you can access our back catalogue of over 100 episodes, with episodes related to service design, product management, design research, and much, much more. Now, if you're interested in design and innovation training, feel free to check out our business, thisisdoing.com, where you can join online classrooms and learn from the world's best design and innovation leaders. Join the This Is HCD newsletter where you'll receive updates from the network, and also if you're interested, apply to join the Slack community on thisishcd.com. Stay safe, and until next time, take care.